Today I'd like to share with you my way of doing Nathan Taylor, the Sockmatician's Zorro SSK with Neat Edge, all in one move. His Zorro SSK starts out by inserting the needle in the first stitch knitwise, coming up between the two stitches, and then inserting the needle into the second stitch knitwise, coming through the second stitch, back in between the two stitches, and then out through the first stitch and dropping off. While that works, it's kind of an extra step for me. So my method is to go into the first stitch knitwise, come between the first and second stitch, go into the second stitch knitwise, then I kind of hold this with my finger just a little bit so that it'll stay on the tip of the needle. And instead of coming between the two stitches, I come up in that little V that you see that is created by the needle in the two stitches and off the needle. Let's do that one more time. Into the first stitch, up through the two stitches, into the second stitch, get a hold of that yarn and just pop it up through that V and off the needles. Now so far I have not included the neater edge, so let's add that next step. So in through the first, between the two, in through the second, come up through that V. Now with the tip of my needle, I'm just going to pop that first stitch off and tug that second stitch so that it tugs up that top stitch, and now you have a nice, neat SSK. So let's do that one more time. In through the first, up between the two, in through the second, up through that little V, and pop that first stitch off, tug good on that second stitch, and now you have a nice, neat edge. Let's do that one more time so that you get a chance to see it. Into the first knitwise, up between the two, into the second knitwise, up through that V, drop the first stitch off, and tug real good so that it neatens it up. Now let's knit through to the end of the row. I will say that I am using a very loose gauge here. That is primarily so that you can see the areas of the stitches that I'm talking about. But if I lay this down, you can see these stitches are kind of loose and wobbly, and these are nice and neat. If I knit back one row, or purl back I should say. Sorry, my yarn is in my way here. Just purl back. As Nathan explains in his video on the technique, it does help more if your stitch gauge is a little loose. If you're a tight knitter, you may really struggle with the Zorro SSK, but that little tug at the end on any SSK, any way you do it, is going to tighten that top stitch and make it lie neater. Okay, now that it's a little bit further off the needle, pull it down to the cable so you can see. There's my loose SSKs. And here's the nice, neat ones. If you do a whole row, you will see it angles very nicely and very neatly. And Nathan does include that in his video, so I will be linking that down below.